welcome back. We get to this movie review from 40 years ago. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. 1986. If you remember this, you gotta be in your 40s or above to remember this film. Maybe you were younger, you saw this film, but this was a cult classic, man. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Matthew Broderick played Ferris Bueller. It was a John Hughes directed teen comedy about a high school senior who was faking an illness and did skip school for a day in Chicago. His girlfriend, his best friend, all evading his principal and sister. Starring Matthew Broderick, Alan Ruck, Mia Sara. The film is known for its humor, fourth wall breaks, iconic Chicago locations, becoming a beloved cult classic that explores themes of youth, freedom, and rebellion. That's what this movie is about. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. Now the plot was that Ferris Bueller fakes being sick to have an epic day off in Chicago, borrowing his friend's dad's Ferrari, visiting famous landmarks, all while being pursued by the determined dean of students, Ed Rooney. The director and writer of this movie was John Hughes, who also wrote and produced the film. Main cast was Matthew Broderick, who played Ferris. Alan Ruck played Cameron. Sloane. Maya Sara, I think I'm saying the last name right. Jeffrey Jones was Ed Rooney, and Jennifer Grey was Jeannie. Now the themes of this movie was the film is a coming out of age story that touches teenage freedom, the pressure to grow up and appreciate the present moment. Now the legacy of this film is that it was a major box office success and has remained a culturally significant, beloved film, with many of its scenes and quotes becoming iconic. This movie will be coming out this coming June 11th, 40 years ago. Back on June 11th, 1986, this movie was released. So 6 days from now, it'll be officially the 40th anniversary of this classic film. That's how it was, man, back then, man. This film was a cult classic. In 86, and again, you had movies like Top Gun. You had, great movies that was out at that time. The Golden Child, Big Trouble in Little China, Platoon. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of great movies that was out at that time. Even Charlie Sheen was in this movie, Charlie Sheen. So that's what this movie's about. Matthew Broderick playing this character, cutting school now. Hughes wrote the screenplay in less than a week. Thanks for the 7 people tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hughes wrote the screenplay in less than a week, so the filming of this movie, began in September 1985, finished in November, and from featuring many Chicago landmarks, including the Sears Tower, Wrigley Field, and the Art Institute of Chicago. The film was Hughes' love letter to Chicago. He said, "I really wanted to capture as much of Chicago as I could, not just in the architecture and landscape, but the spirit." Thanks for hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Released by Paramount Pictures on June 11, 1986. The film became the 10th highest grossing film of 1986 in the United States. It grossed $70.7 million, over a $5 million budget. The film received generally positive reviews from critics and audiences alike, and who praised Broderick's performance, the film's humor and tone. In 2014, this movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, being deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. The film was followed by a television series starring Charlie Schlatter as a title character. It was a series that came out in 1990, 1991. I remember that. Ferris Bueller. So Ferris Bueller, that shows the impact and the influence of this movie that became a television series. You know what I'm saying? It evolved into a television series in 1990, 1991. Only lasted, 13 episodes, had, 4 episodes. So they tried to capitalize on the success, but didn't have enough success. only lasts 13 episodes, according to research. One season. Made his debut on August 23rd, 1990. So it was based on that, the movie. Right, just back to the movie at hand. 2 months before his graduation, high school senior Ferris Bueller fakes his illness and stay home from school. Really breaking the fourth wall to describe his senioritis. While his sister Jeannie sees through the ruse, he fools their parents, Katie and Tom. After learning Ferris has been absent 9 times that semester, the school dean Edward R. Rooney and Secretary Grace become determined to expose Ferris's chronic truancy. Ferris hacks into the school's computer system, reduces his absence count to 2, making it appear that he had attended school regularly. To excuse Ferris' girlfriend Sloane Peterson from school, he persuades his hypochondriac best friend Cameron Fry to impersonate Sloane's father and call the school. He claims that her grandmother died. Knowing Sloane's dating Ferris, Rooney feels suspicious, responds dismissively. Ferris simultaneously calls the school to confirm his absence, fooling Rooney into believing he offended Sloane's father. When picking up Sloane, Ferris disguises himself as a father, borrows the prized possession of Cameron's father, a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider. However, Rooney becomes suspicious upon seeing Sloane kiss Ferris. Fearing his father's wrath, Cameron becomes paranoid, but Ferris takes the car on a day trip to Chicago, even if assurances of preserving its condition original odometer mileage. Ferris and Cameron and Sloane leave the car with 2 parking attendants, promptly take it on a long joyride. The 3 visit the Sears Tower Observatory, eat lunch at an upscale restaurant, visit the Chicago Stock Exchange Art Institute of Chicago, went to the Chicago Cubs baseball game, attended the Von Steuben Day Parade, where Ferris jumps on the float, lip syncs Thanks Join. I think it's Donkashane. Yeah, Donkashane. Wayne Newton and Twisted Shop by the Beach. They managed to hide from his father who works in the city. So this is what was going on. This is the plot of the movie, man. It was this amazing plot. I'm going to get into all the details, but that's what took place at that time. I see a picture here with Broderick. He was in Sweden doing his promotion of Ferris Bueller's Day Off on June 1986. So that's how it was, man, back then. As he was writing the film in 1985, John Hughes kept track of his progress. In a spiral-bound long book, if you know that the basic storyline was developed on February 25th, it was successfully pitched the following day to Paramount Studios chief Ned Tannen. Tannen was intrigued by the concept, but worried that the Writers Guild of America was hours away picketing the studio. Hughes wrote the screenplay in less than a week. Now, the thing I like about doing these movie reviews is that you get the understanding of, okay, you see the actors that were in the movie, but there were other actors that could have been in the movie that could have played the role that Matthew Broderick, played. Ferris Bueller. It could have been somebody else. The people that was big at the time, that was, him and Vince at the time in the movie scene, like Jim Carrey, John Cusack, John Cryer, Johnny Depp, George Clooney, Tom Cruise, Michael J. Fox. These are the guys that could play Ferris Bueller. But Broderick was the only actor that he could think of who could pull off this role, calling him clever and charming. So, but there were other people that could have got it. Anthony Michael Hall, who had worked with Hughes on 3 previous films, off the part where he turned it down. He was very busy with other projects. Other actors were considered for the role, like I said, Jim Carrey, John Cusack, John Cryer, Johnny Depp, George Clooney, Tom Cruise, and Michael J. Fox. They were considered for the role. And when you talk about Sarah, surprised she was when she auditioned for the role of Swain Peterson, Molly Ringwald, who had also wanted to play the character played by Mia Sarah, wanted to get involved in it, but it just didn't happen. Same thing with Alan Ruck, who played the role of Bender in the Breakfast Club that went to Judd Nelson, but Hughes remembered Ruck and cast him as a 17-year-old Cameron Fry. Also, Cameron had been offered to Emilio Estevez, who turned it down for the role that Ruck played. So a lot of people was considered for this role at the time. That's the thing that's fascinating about these movies. We see these actors in these movies, but at the same time, during the production, there could have been other actors that were considered, but they just didn't make the cut to be part of this movie. So I want to discuss that. The filming, obviously, was in Chicago. So that's obvious. It's the Chicago area. This film was made at. So they talk about the Ferrari, obviously. That's part of the movie. So parade scene. Even the parade scene, it took multiple days of filming. Broderick spent most time practicing the dance moves. He was very scared, he said. Fortunately, the sequence was carefully choreographed beforehand. We worked out all moves by rehearsing in a little studio, so it was shot on 2 Saturdays in the heart of downtown Chicago. The first day was during the real parade, and John got some very long shots. Then radio stations carried announcements inviting people to take part in the John Hughes movie. So you had that stuff going on. Wrigley Field, obviously, this game has been identified as the June 5th, 1985 game between the Red Braves and the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, so we had that. Post-production, editor Paul Hirsch, the original cut, the museum scene fared poorly at test screenings until he switched sequences around and Hughes changed the soundtrack. They were deleting scenes that was part of this also. There's several scenes that were cut from the front of the film. Once lost scene tied the aisles of Langerhans, where the 3 teachers are trying to order in the French restaurant, shocked to discover pancreas on the menu. Stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that was going on at that time in this movie, man. It was just a cult classic. Had the soundtrack. Got positive reviews. Again, this is a classic movie, man. I mean, this is 40 years old. This coming June 11th. It's amazing that it's been 40 years since this movie was released. Also, Broderick was able to receive a nomination for Golden Globe Award in 1987 for Best Actor, Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The film opened in 1,330 theaters in the United States. Had a total weekend of a gross of $6,275,647. Opened at number 2. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Total gross in the United States was $70,136,169, making it a box office success. Again, it's the 10th highest grossing film in 1986. And also, it's one of the more popular, influential films. Bravo said that was the 100 funniest videos. It was number 54. It ranked number 10 as far as 50 best high school movies. As far as British 50 greatest comedy films, it's number 26. Its cultural influence. Let's look at that. John Hughes said of Bueller that kid will either become president of the United States or go to prison. U.S. President Ronald Reagan at the time, viewed the film at Camp David on June 21st, 1986. Barbara Bush paraphrased the film in a 1990 commencement address at Wesley College. Find the joy in life, because as Ferris Bueller said it on his day off, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop, look around once in a while, you can miss it. It's very great stuff, Phrases like Bueller, anyone. or stuff like that. It's just some crazy, great stuff, from that movie that was said, that was quoted, very influential. All right, the music, we went over that. Okay, all right, so that's basically it, man. Look at this movie 40 years ago. Thanks. So I'm gonna stop right here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hitting the like button. 3 people tuned in. Hit the like button. Hopefully you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Be back real soon, about 2 o'clock, through the Nas It Was Written album. Next month it'll be 30 years. I think that album came out last year. 1996, obviously, but in July. So next month will mark the 30th anniversary of It Was Written. Came out in July 1996. Gotta double check that, but it's the 30th anniversary of that. Probably the most misunderstood album of Nas' career. I mean, with the songs that he made, If I Ruled the World with Lauryn Hill, it's a lot of misunderstandings with that record. Maybe the most understood record he ever did. The things that he said lyrically in that song with Lauryn Hill. So we're gonna get into that. We got a lot going on, a lot of good music reviews and movie reviews coming up on this YouTube channel as I move away from like the interview portion. I did a lot of interviews that I did, some of the stuff that I recorded when I was doing radio years ago. I was able to record it and put it on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out, playlists and all that other stuff. That's it for a look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off, man, 1986. Congrats to that movie, 40 years ago. That's a cult classic, man. That if you know about movies, that was one of the best movies of the 80s at that time. It became a cult classic and people could tune in on cable, ever since then. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but there was something about that movie that made it a cult classic, man. Matthew Broderick did a great job playing that character, main character Ferris Bueller. And that's it. So that's it for today. I'll be back at 2 o'clock. Till then, talk to you soon.